before.
Talk on the text.
So yeah, it hurts our democracy a lot, and it's if you guys are disappointed by that, I'm not in the gaming category. I'm sorry about that. Um, but we're gonna play some War Thunder, and then we're gonna get right back into um, that um, into that stream again. But holy cow, guys, it's absolutely insane to think about, but at the same time, it's upsetting. Um, because one, it's it's really upsetting. But yeah, it's our democracy. So. Oh no, we'll just play some Call of Duty then. So, we have time for one more Gonna play some Nuketown 24/7. So. I know a lot of you guys don't like politics, but party. You know, we might find out that Trump has a case. I mean, we don't know yet. You know, we may find out, you know, Trump is right. You know, there was voter fraud within that. And, you know, me personally as a registered voter for the United States of America, it's kind of mad. It makes me mad because, you know, oh, because they're saying this and this and this. But really, right now, Biden should just chill out for a minute. Because he doesn't even know if he's still the president or not. And if he is, he is. I mean, if they find voter fraud, and they find, you know, they find something in there saying, oh, that's not right, then that they'll call it, and then Trump will be automatically our president in the United States of America again. But they will have to have a re-election done at a later date, so they will have to redo it. But other than that, you know, it's nerve-wracking to know that happened on American soil, and you know, it's, you know, we may, you know, only time will tell, and you know, it's nerve-wracking.
Hardpoint lost. Hardpoint located.
Fail operator neutralized.
Throwing stun. Capture the hardpoint. This isn't working. We're behind. Hostile spy plane established overhead. Hardpoint is secure. Hostiles have the hardpoint.
Combat bow ready.
Combat bow. On the hunt. KIA.
That's pipeline above my location. SACOM. Target requesting pipeline. Hardpoint located.
More to light.
Hardpoint contested. Lost the hardpoint.
Driving RCXD.
Hardpoint is secure.
RCXD has been destroyed.
Hardpoint identified. Hardpoint is secure. Testing hardpoint.
We're back.
Testing hardpoint.
We're back. Okay. Here's a second. Alright guys, they're back, so we're gonna go back to YouTube and we're gonna finish watching that election hearing, and then I will talk to you guys here in a few minutes.
There's a vast difference between the 2 days. The first day, on Tuesday, things were, moving along. There were a lot of duplicated ballots. I was told by an election official that an entire area, about 5,000 ballots were mailed out, and they mailed out the incorrect ones, so they had to go back and duplicate all of those ballots. It was hard to get proper oversight over this. We were told to stand 6 feet away, and we were permitted on times to take a step forward. So that's 5 feet away if you have long legs like me. And about 15 seconds we could look in. So realistically, we couldn't really see much. So at one table, I saw a single ballot duplicated 4 times. I was told by the table lead that the first duplicate was because of the wrong precinct. The second was user error. The third was the wrong precinct again. I managed to see the notes in the QVF and that the incorrect ballots were listed, but the duplicate ballots were in numerical order, which I thought was weird by precinct. I estimate that I probably saw 3,000 to 4,000 duplications the first day. And the next day, it was chaotic. A poll worker, let me first say that I was assigned to and gladly took the lead of watching the military ballots. It was limited to me and one other GOP person that could stand there and monitor the table of about 17, 25, I don't know, boxes of ballots. Military ballots were unfolded and were different, and I was not permitted within 6 feet of those ballots. However, there was one lady from the NAACP and another one from the ACLU that were up wandering about, looking in the boxes with an election official, which I thought was rather odd. I saw person after person getting kicked out of the room, and it was almost like, here's a shiny object in the room over here, look at this commotion while we do this over here. And I witnessed that on several occasions. I'd also like to say that at one point I heard reports, there's 134 Republicans in the room, we can't let more in, you have enough people. But they didn't, if I may, they didn't let us know that we were to sign out. And all the people that got kicked out were not getting signed out. I witnessed probably about 30 people getting kicked out for not really doing much. Maybe they tried to challenge and weren't allowed. I saw that, and then people left for lunch because we were told that we could leave for lunch, and they weren't allowed back in the room without even being notified that they had to sign out. So them saying that there were a lot of Republicans in the room is categorically false. I counted 7 people that were helping me with the military ballots. Thank you.
Thank you. And you have submitted written testimony for...
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
This morning, yes.
Any questions, members? Senator Tice.
Sorry, when you say 7 people helping you with the military ballots, that's not 7 people total in the room, that's 7 people who were helping you right there? How many total do you think there might have been?
I saw probably a dozen. And we were trying to make sure that each stack of military ballots and their duplicate ballots were going back to the table and being followed. Those people weren't even allowed to get an elbow in, and I say that jokingly, of course, weren't even allowed to see because there were swarms of people around the table from different parties that were allowed in. And I also want to say one quick thing. Earlier, a gentleman talked about the password, the password to the QVF in the system. There was the piece of paper with the login and the password were taped to each table. And it was admin and this password taped to each table. So God and everyone could get that password. I just want to say, sorry, God.
Senator, I want to make one clarification. For those who don't know, because I know there are a lot of people who are watching on TV, and maybe not everybody in the audience knows, military ballots come in a particular format that they cannot be processed with. So they have to be transcribed from the ballot that they mailed in to the ballot that's consistent with the precinct that they're at. So that's the reason why the military ballots are being so closely watched, is because everyone by necessity has to be transcribed onto a specific ballot that's different from the one that they sent. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Tice.
Correct.
Senator Santana.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, we're dealing with a pandemic, right?
Of course.
And so part of the reason why the voting counting process was moved to the TFC Center was to make sure that people were socially distancing.
Correct.
And so, one of the protocols, and maybe you haven't heard this, but Dr. J with DHHS has also made it where we want to make sure that people are being safe based off of science. So having people maneuvering in and out of the room where ballots are being counted, do you think that it would be a good practice to make sure that you sign out if you're going to lunch? I mean, it's just like if you were going to a job every day where you work hourly work, you would check out for lunch, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so do you think that process makes sense?
Yes, absolutely. The COVID, I understand, and it's in my testimony about the COVID orders, and we were all trying to be polite, but we were standing 6 feet away, and the other parties were at the table, even sitting down at the table with them. I witnessed this on several occasions. The Democrat challengers were sitting down at the table with them, helping them duplicate ballots, and we weren't allowed within 6 feet. So it was a little bit disparaging.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much for taking the time to testify today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Next up, I have Jasmine Early, and followed then by Artisha Bulmer, and then Charles Richard. Ms. Early, welcome to the Senate Oversight Committee. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you. I'm going to start with an Hispanic from South America with a black grandmother and a Hispanic Indian native mom. I believe in one race, the human race. With that said, I can tell you that I'm not a racist. I'm a legal immigrant who is speaking here because I took my pledge to become an American citizen very seriously. I was a Republican certified poll challenger at the TCF Center from November 4th to November 5th. I was one of the victims of harassment, discrimination, and intimidation by election workers while I was fulfilling my duty as a challenger. What the witness has shared are no conspiracy theories. Several times, election workers tried to remove me from the room with the false accusations that I was impeding their process. They were the ones who blocked me from seeing the ballots, and when allowed, workers would complain. An election worker was brought up to harass me with the base of being too close. However, among themselves, they didn't social distance. I explained to him that I was only following the chairperson's direction in and out. Somehow we got to the point that English was not my first language, and he implied that then I shouldn't be there. I told him that he was discriminating and that he was treating me like garbage. He went away. Later, poll workers whispered to each other and brought police officers to remove me. It was pretty intimidating having officers approaching me when I had not done anything wrong. I understood they were trying to do their job. I noticed an officer was Hispanic, and I talked to him in Spanish. They were being lied. The officer started backing up. I witnessed many Republicans being kicked out of the room, and it was scary. That is not the America I came to a few decades ago. They were mad, kicked out, and not replaced, even though they were Republicans outside to be allowed to enter. It didn't happen. Since I was not able to see the poll books and didn't have anything to compare with, I was legally advised to challenge every ballot. The workers got pretty upset about it and advised to their people not to stop the process and dismiss any challenge. I had pages of notes of ballots. Here I had an affidavit where I can prove you that I didn't see, we couldn't do anything. There were people entered with a 11900, and I took the time to check those people. They didn't allow me to challenge it. The names of the people are here. While the Democrats are dismissing the finding from challengers, is those people were alive and registered to vote, why they were manually entered. Why weren't the ballot boxes properly sealed by the workers? Several of them were unattended, and I had a list of those tables. Me and another challenger questioned why those boxes were unsealed. The election director proceeded to seal them. As an American citizen and on behalf of the people of Michigan, I'm here to demand that you remember you took an oath to defend the country from enemy, domestic and foreign. Remember, it is your moral, ethical, and lawful duty today to seek for an investigation on the chain of custody. Demand election integrity. do demand a detailed forensic audit. You can go into history as the heroes for doing something right for this country and bringing to light what is hidden, or as cowards who didn't have the courage to protect the election integrity. You will be remembered as those who took a courageous and political incorrect stand, or as dishonest people who side with the fraud. It is your choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions? Senator McDonald has a question.
Just want to say hi to Jasmine. Jasmine is a constituent of mine. How are you?
I'm good.
I don't have a question. I just want to say I'm sorry. And I'm sorry that every one of you had to go through this experience. I think it's reprehensible, and I think it's unforgivable. So, thank you.
It was hate toward us. That is how I described it, described being there. I didn't come to a country that I will be mistreated in that way. I love this country. I will stand and fight for it, but nobody, doesn't really matter. I didn't grow up seeing people by skin colors. No matter who you are, no matter where you came from, you should seek for integrity, because outside the country we see America as an honest people, filled with honest people with integrity. I want that to be preserved, and that is why we are here. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator McDonald. Any questions? Thank you. Thank you very much for your time today. Thank you for your
I will
testimony.
give you a copy of the affidavit that was given to the lawyer.
Please.
Thank you.
Next, we have Artisha Bolmer.
Artesia Bomber.
Oh, my apologies, ma'am. Thank you.
Senator.
And then after Artesia, we have Charles Richard, and after him, Evan Schock. Welcome to the Senate Oversight Committee. You have 3 minutes.
Thank you, committee. I am so happy to be here. Let me put my hat back on because this is my prize right here. This is the winner who won the election before it was cheated, before it was fraudulently cheated. It was cold and calculated fraud. And as a sidebar for Senator Santana, if Black Lives Matter, why did you skip me? Well, anyway, let me get on. Senator McBroom, sir, when I first saw your name, 2 things instantly came to my mind. One, will you sweep my testimony under the rug, like the other people have done, such as Dana Nessel, who's in the fraud, check, Governor Whitmer, fraud, check, and all of the above, check. Or will you sweep me off my feet by taking my testimony as facts rather than fiction? My name is Artesia Bomber. I am an adult citizen, resident, state of Michigan, also a registered voter. I was trained and credentialed to be a poll challenger for the November 2020 general election. I witnessed many election irregularities and violations of Michigan election law, and I hope that my statement is taken seriously. I am sharing this information under the penalty of perjury that if I testify, I can be locked up if I'm telling a lie, which I am not. On November the 3rd, 2020, between 9:30 and 10 p.m., I reported to TCF Center. I was assigned to 2 separate tables, absentee voting county board, 123 and 120. I immediately noticed things were not normal. Election workers were allowed to wear Biden t-shirts, blue face masks, the ones I recognized on Gretchen Whitmer's face in some of her interviews on Charlie Langston's show. I also saw poll workers wearing Black Lives Matter face masks, which is a political movement. Joe Biden is moving to defund the police. Thank you very much. I am not passing judgment on this because I am a proud Black woman from the city of Detroit. Welcome, my sister from the D.
Please direct your
I
comments to the chair,
know
ma'am.
this because I've been strictly told not to wear anything of partisan related to my candidates for office. So election supervisors seem to be implementing a double standard. Election workers had jackets, backpacks, purses, etc. on the tables and on the floors. There was no system to check your personal effects. Some people even had coolers for food with them. I don't know what was in them. It could have been ballots for all I know. I observed an election worker pull out a ballot from an envelope where the circle was completed next to the name Donald J. Trump. I saw this with my own eyes, all this that I'm saying to you today. I can see this because the marking was at the very top left corner of the ballot. Instead of processing the ballot, I saw the election worker push the ballot back in the envelope and put it in there in a black container on top of the table. I witnessed a meeting between election workers, team leads, where they gathered together and spoke at meetings that was in the left far-hand side of the wall. The meeting ended in cheers. Woo! They were just super excited. At approximately 11:43 p.m., I heard one of the team leads yell, "This is our house tonight," and further yell, "They gonna do what we tell them to do from here on out." I took that as they're saying, this is the Democrats' house tonight, and the Republicans, independent, or whoever is gonna do what we say tonight. And might I add, I was a U.S. Taxpayer Party of Michigan candidate at that time, sir. I observed stations where election workers were working on scanned ballots that had issues that needed to be manually corrected. I believe some of these workers were changing votes that had been cast for Donald Trump other than Republican candidates. I observed ballots with cursive writing notes at the top right-hand corner. I observed a lot of them. Let's say count maybe about 100 of them or more. I also observed these ballots did not have ballot codes on them. The one, you tear at the top, no ballot code numbers. At approximately 4:03 a.m., a poll worker announced 50 boxes of ballots coming in. Election workers loudly cheered, woo! Why? Did they know that they were for Biden? Was it a Biden dump? We don't know, huh? About 4:50 a.m., I witnessed a man spraying a chemical inside the ballot. It could have been air, but I also saw him put whiteout tape up inside of there, and he was walking around with this whiteout tape during the whole night. I have witnesses. If you need to call on them, their name is Cheryl Constantino, Linda Sawyer, Judy Jump, Debbie Swoff, and Marlene Benser, including myself, Artesia Bomber. I can't get all into this because I probably got a few more seconds, but let me tell you, it was voter fraud at its finest, pure and calculated fraud. And I wouldn't be surprised if people up here was involved. But this young man right here, Senator McDaniel, Donald, I got to give you kudos. I see you're interested in this. And Senator Thies, I have to give you kudos because I see you're really paying attention. I wish Senator Lucido was here because I say he's paying attention. And now I think you will pay attention. And I plead the blood of Jesus over this fraud, and that everybody that was part of it and know about it will be convicted, and they soul and they spirit, they won't sleep, they won't eat until they come right. Thank you, Jesus. Amen.
Thank you. Questions from
Any questions?
Questions from Senator Santana.
Y'all, please.
Thank you, Chairman.
welcome.
And
Look
thank
at
you, Ms. Bomber,
Oh,
for
you're
your
welcome.
testimony. You mentioned in your statements that you were also a candidate for the U.S. 13th Congressional District at the time that you were a challenger. Do you realize that you cannot do both of those acts at the same time?
Well, that's a double standard because y'all committed fraud and y'all wasn't supposed to do that at the same time as well. Next. I still witnessed it. My eyes still witnessed it.
Any other questions
Any other
from members?
questions?
Senator Tice?
I just want to make sure we get a copy of your testimony.
Sure, but it won't be done today because I'm going to amend it. So if you guys have anything with the word Artesia Bomber on it, dispose of it because it will be amended and that won't be withdrawn. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're done? Thank you. You all have a wonderful day, and all who involved will not rest.
Next, we have Charles Richard.
It's actually Charles Richard.
Oh, my apologies,
Okay,
sir.
no, that's quite all right.
After Mr. Richard, I have Evan Schock, followed by Adam DeAngeli.
Ready?
Sir,
All
yes,
right.
you have 3
Well,
minutes.
First of all,
Thank you.
thank you for having me. I'm not your normal person in terms of protester or otherwise. I'm a former vice president of quality in aerospace. And when I hear numbers bannered around, I got to tell you, if I accepted those numbers as even though they're improvement on aerospace, on aircraft, you would be dying. The planes would be dropping out of the sky. It's deplorable to hear things like what the numbers were in 2016 and what they are in 2020. So when I hear this, so I'm going to go into my speech. I'm sorry, but it really does. I just can't believe that we talk about this. Okay, it's acceptable. So, anyways, let me go on. My name is Charles Richard, and I'm the chairman of the Oceana County Board of Canvassers, and I'm one of the plaintiffs in the suit with Sidney Powell. And I'll make that emphasis. That suit is very valid, and we're going forward. And you guys will be involved in it, too, before long, I guarantee you. So I say that because we have got to clean up what is going on in the election process. When I hear Senator Lucido say, well, we're just lawmakers, wrong. You guys chartered it. You chartered the Board of Canvassers. You go back and look at MCL 168. You guys chartered it. It's a 113-page manual, too. So I can tell you specifically on that. I've heard a lot of things about it. I've heard about clerks testifying. Those clerks know it up to this process. They know that part, but after that, no, they don't. The tabulators, this stuff, very few do. It's too technical. But let me tell you about one piece of evidence you don't know. The Secretary of State contracted with a company called VoterWorks. They use a software called Arlo. Arlo is an open architecture. You ought to look at that. That's a serious flaw. It's a back way into the QVF, the qualified voter file. What does that do? It allows them to enter names that may be fictitious. Well, I've seen examples of places where these people don't live and whatnot. Take a look at it. That's a pretty serious flaw. It's like your bank or your credit card being opened. No one's looking at that. How did we find it? We found it by preparing for the Board of Canvassers last week. I happened to discover it by looking at the audit file, the risk. The state calls it a risk-limiting audit pilot system. It's a joke. I don't want to tell you that. It's a joke. How do I know that? I'm an auditor. I'm a systems auditor, not a computer systems auditor, a quality systems auditor, where we can tear things apart and understand what the documentation is, what you use as a standard. When you talk about an audit, what are you auditing to? What standard are you auditing to? So when I say that, so that's a joke. And I really, that
1 minute, sir.
Actually, that open hole there is like your credit card being breached, and that's what it is. It is a distinct breach, and it's there. We need to really focus on that. And another thing is, I heard a thing about the Black Lives Matter and Jesus. We had an incident in our poll. Well, a lady had a Trust Jesus shirt on. They would not let her be in the poll. She was a poll worker. They stopped. They told her it's it's a code, dress code issue, or it's an issue. She went to five different people, including the state. So I didn't accept it. I went to the FBI, and I heard Pete Lucido say that. The FBI is a joke, and I want to tell you that right now, and I can validate it. So I want to finish with this. It's a joke because they don't go that far. I backed the guy into the corner, really, and then I talked to him again. He says, what do? Are we going to go after a $5 case, or are we going to go after a $10 million case? And you know what I said to him? I said both. You know why? Because that's selective enforcement if you don't. I've been on city council. I can tell you that. If you do that, you are subjugating freedom. You're basically just going after money. So let me finish with one thing if I can, then I'll give you my notes. It'll be quick. I said, finally, you have a job to do under U.S. Constitution, Article 2, Section 1, Clauses 2 and 3. That states, and I'll paraphrase, the legislature will pick a number of electors equal to the number of senators and representatives in Michigan's case. We expect that with all the fraud going on in this state, that you would do your duty and elect the electors as described in the U.S. Constitution and rule this election null and void. Be a leader, not a wuss. Void the vote, elect electors. Thank you.
Thank you for your time, sir. We have questions from members?
I do just, so you said thank you, sorry. VoterWorks, and then you gave another name, but I didn't.
Arlo is the software that they use, yes. But if you go on, if I can, let me give you just a little bit addition on there. On their website, and I didn't tell you this because we're out of time, it's an item 3, it states, add voter information for voter request. They're given a procedure, okay, just so you know that. So it says, it states, add voter information for voters requesting ballots. This can be done manually and does not require a voter registration system integration. In other words, it can bypass the verification steps. Who would ever approve an open system like that? It's a major flaw.
And that's Arlo?
Pardon me?
That part is Arlo?
That's right off.
That's
in VoterWorks. That's what that's a claim to fame. Pull it up and look at it. It's like I almost died when I found it.
Thank you.
So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Senator.
Okay.
Thanks, Mr. Richard.
Yeah. I'll give you these if you want.
Please.
I didn't put my phone there.
Yes, thank you. Next, we have Mr. Evan Schock, followed by Adam DeAngeli. And after him, I have card for Karen Chopshian, I believe. Mr. Schock, welcome to the Senate Oversight Committee.
Hi, thank you for your time. I'm a registered voter in Michigan, and I was an independent challenger at the TCF Center on November 4th, 2020. So I arrived around the time when the windows were being boarded up with cardboard boxes and signs and stuff like that, and when I walked in I was confused on why they weren't letting challengers in and why these boards were being put up, and the people around me were also confused, so we decided to ask questions. Nobody around us could give us an answer. We were ignored, and people were walking in and out. We had no clue how these people were being let in and out. There was really nobody constituting it correctly, so after about an hour of waiting, I was an independent, so I had somebody come up to me and ask me, hey, are you an independent? I said yes, and I was let in. It was me and about 8 other people. Once I got in, I signed in, and I noticed right away that it was very chaotic in there. There was groups of people in the middle where somebody testified earlier and said there's empty ballots in the middle of the room. There were groups around those empty ballots where it'd be easy for somebody to grab these ballots, hide them, or take them somewhere without being seen. I noticed a commotion in the back right corner, so I decided to go over and see what was going on. And another independent challenger, I asked him what happened. He told me from what I saw too, because I followed the police over there, he was being told to stay back. There were more than, I'd say, about 9 people around this table. And there's just a lot of commotion going on. He said that he was told he had to leave as an independent challenger, and they wanted a new challenger in. So I felt that was wrong. And as I was walking later, I saw a woman named Karen, who she's going to be speaking soon. She was raising her voice, so I went over and asked her if there was an independent challenger at her table, which she said no. And they were blocking her view from seeing the ballots. So I offered to tell her what I'm seeing when they're duplicating these ballots, because she was in fear that she would be kicked out if she spoke up and challenged any more than she did. With these manual ballots, after we watched the duplication process go on, they brought more ballots over, and we watched them scan the ballots and put in the date 1/1/1900. I was actually with the Democratic challenger too. We were both confused on why this was happening, so we decided to call over a supervisor, who the only response we got was, "Oh, that's the default date that we put." I didn't ask any other questions, neither did he. Didn't ask any questions in the fear that I'd be kicked out, as I just witnessed 4 other Republicans/independents get kicked out. And it was interesting because in the guide, or in the handbook, it does say that no propaganda is allowed inside of the polling center. And I did see Black Lives Matter masks, and again, I feel there's nothing wrong with that, but I feel like that's a double standard, and I feel that it's wrong that people can have that, and it's okay. I was called names whenever my mask fell down even a little below my nose. I'd be called names. I'd say I was killing people, stuff like that, while they'd be talking to somebody not wearing a mask. People at the polling centers weren't wearing masks, the people who were doing the duplicating. It was just very unorganized. Yeah, that's all I've got.
All right, thank you. Any questions from members? Thank you very much for taking the time to testify.
Yeah, thank you.
Was that Mr. Schock? Or, yes, okay. We one card off here? This is the next, we haven't had her yet. That was the name I was struggling with. This is one we just did, so you want to change the number on it. All right, thank you. Next, we have Adam DeAngeli. On deck will be Karen Chopchian, followed by Randy Bishop.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members, for this opportunity. My name is Adam DeAngeli, and I was a poll worker in the election for the city of Detroit, not a poll challenger, but a poll worker as an employee working at a polling place as a ballot box inspector on Election Day, November 3rd. I think I'm only the second person today who was a poll worker, so I can answer the question I think you may all have about why so many poll challengers were impeded. I took not one but 2 poll worker trainings for the city of Detroit, one for ballot inspector on October 14th and one for electronic poll book inspector on October 15th. And in both of those trainings, it was emphasized to the students in the classroom that the social distancing requirements could be used to impede poll challengers. In fact, both trainings emphasized that if poll workers got angry about it, we should call the police on them as a first resort. In fact, at the second training, we had a trainee, as they were explaining the social distancing rule, they said they have to wear a mask, they have to stay 6 feet back, and that's important because they can come behind your table, but if they don't have 6 feet behind your table, they can't come back there. So a trainee asks, so if they're 6 feet back, they can't actually see, and the trainer says, exactly, not unless they've got really good vision or they brought their binoculars. And later on, another trainee asked, what if they get really mad and they're yelling? The trainer responded, quote, 911, call the police on them, have them thrown up out of there. Knowing from these trainings that the city was setting up a confrontational setting in which poll challengers would be completely unable to perform their duties, I told others what I had been told, and I provided the audio that I had recorded of the poll worker trainings. This led to a lawsuit against the Secretary of State filed on Friday, October 23rd. The plaintiffs in that lawsuit, one was a gentleman testifying earlier this afternoon, and another will be your colleague in the House next year. There was a hearing on the suit, and resolution was reached in the morning of Wednesday, October 28th, 6 days before Election Day. That hearing is online at the Court of Claims YouTube page. You can watch it. It concluded with the Secretary of State agreeing to amend the policy to say that poll challengers would socially distance except as necessary to perform their duties. And critically, Judge Cynthia Stevens said, quote, I am more concerned that you get this directive out and amend the frequently asked questions for election workers than I am about this court's docket. Judge Stevens understood how time-sensitive and important this was. Both the hearing and the final order specified that this revised policy was to be made known to poll workers. I can tell you, as a poll worker in the city of Detroit on Election Day, Nobody there was advised of this policy change. And in fact, the poll challengers were sitting at the end of our cafeteria table all the way at the end the entire day. Now, you might ask why I didn't tell the challengers myself about the policy, and the answer was because they're for the other side, which leads to another important point that I think you might have some questions about, which is how it is that so many of the poll workers were not real Republicans. Well, at both of the poll worker trainings I attended, they had made the point of announcing that the electronic poll book inspectors included many teenagers. And in fact, at the EPI training I took on October 15th, a clear majority of people in the room were in fact teenagers. So for all the people that came up today that said they applied to be a poll worker but didn't get the job, there was something going on that was coordinating the hiring of employees for a certain purpose. Now you'll know, or maybe you don't know, but I assume you do, poll workers are required to specify their party affiliation. They can't say they're independents. Well, what's your party affiliation when you're a minor and you're not even eligible to vote? So I thought that was an important thing. There's a lot more in my affidavit about what I saw happen on Election Day. For example, we were instructed at the training that provisional ballots were used to mislead ineligible voters as essentially phony ballots that would be destroyed by the Department of Elections. It's all in the affidavit and also linked to the recording of the complete poll worker trainings from start to finish. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. DeAngeli. So they told you, you're saying at the training, that they specifically stated that it was intentional to make it difficult for challengers?
Yeah, they actually had a laugh about it. They said, and again, I'm quoting from the recording, which you can listen yourself, but they asked, so if they're 60 feet back, they can't actually see. The trainer interrupts. Exactly. Not unless they got really good vision or they brought their binoculars.
Okay. Other members have questions? Mr. DeAngeli, you've submitted a very substantial amount of additional testimony, so thank you for that, and thank you for keeping it to 3 minutes now. Appreciate that, but we'll look through the longer testimony.
Very good. Thank you.
Next, I have Karen Chopchian, followed by Randy Bishop, and then Lenore Kurik. I'm sorry if I've mispronounced your name.
It's
ma'am.
Chopchin. It's fine.
How do you say it?
Karen Chopchin.
Chochin? Chopchin. Okay,
Yes.
thank you. You have 3 minutes.
Is that going to destroy my seconds?
No.
Thank
That's
you.
Starting now.
Okay, first off, I'd like to say my affidavit was sent to Washington and stamped, and by a lawyer that worked for Senator John Kennedy. I'm going to make a long story short because a lot of this is repetitious, and I do see a few faces that I do know. And yes, there was a trough of blank ballots in the center for all the world to see, and welcome to take as many as you wanted, especially after hours. I am an administrator. I've done it for many, many years. I've done fraud at banks, embezzlements, and I've never seen administrative procedure so chaotic. It was a circus in there. They were banging on the doors. I didn't know if I was going to go under the table or leave the building. I could not do my job. So if you expected me to do it, I couldn't. It wasn't flowing right. And one example of me not being able to do my job were the military votes. Military votes I was unable to see at all. The first one, forget it. They wouldn't even let me do it because they said, we're starting and you're going to slow down the process, so we're not going to show it to you. So that was the end of that. And I was like, at the top of my voice, I needed help. Nobody was helping me except young gentleman, a couple young gentlemen, but specifically Evan Schock. He was an independent, and he came in there to help me because they would not allow me to see the ballots. They were 6 inches apart. I was supposed to stay 6 feet. Was that the law? Well, that's the way it works in there. So he had to help me. He had to like rubberneck himself and tell me what each ballot said. 2.5 hours for 19 ballots. And the computer screen was at the opposite end of the table. So everything was very awkward. And these ballots, some of these ballots were opened and stapled shut. So I don't see any administrative sensibility about this since I've done paperwork all my life. I don't know the internal organs of the computer, but I did see 1900 a lot too at that military table after those were counted. So there was plenty of those. Yes, do you have something to say?
No, you have 1 minute remaining.
Oh, 1 minute, okay. So let me just reiterate, okay, some envelopes were opened and then stapled shut. Poll workers received select few, would not allow me to see the first ballot. Yes, okay, so long story short, since this is in Washington and since it is a little bit repetitious, the bottom line is I was not able to do my job because of harassment, and we had a parade of Black Lives Matter in rhinestones. I was told not to wear anything. In fact, I'm wearing what I wore today at TCF. So I did not see anything Trump, but I saw a lot of masks that said BLM. Rhinestones. Don't forget the rhinestones. But as an administrator, I could not do my job, period. So there wasn't a lot I could do in all that confusion. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
And one comment I'd like to make. My husband almost did, he said, why are you going over there? They're not going to do anything. I said, you know what? I'll go. I'm going to go because I won't be able to sleep at night knowing that I didn't do something. But I'd just like to say that.
Thank you. Do any members have questions?
Really quickly, you
Senator
kept
Tice?
saying you couldn't do your job. What specifically was your title?
I was a poll watcher.
Okay, thank you.
And I couldn't watch the ballots being counted.
Thank you.
Any
Were
other
you a challenger or a watcher?
I was a watcher.
Okay.
I was a watcher. I watched everything, and I was told to be a watcher. I don't know, a challenger. I guess I was a challenger, but I was trying to believe that I was a watcher. I was watching everything. I was watching.
Okay.
Okay. Well, I challenged, and I lost, and Evan had to help me. I mean, I was, I'm a pretty, I'm capable of taking care of myself, and I don't know why a young man has to help me and assist me in reading the ballots. That's ridiculous. It was all ridiculous. I would invalidate the whole room because that's how ridiculous it was. So that's all I have to say. I'm just,
Thank you
I'm
for your
just
testimony.
disappointed. Okay.
Appreciate you coming.
Thank you for having me.
Next, I have Randy Bishop, followed by Lenore Couric, and then David, I think it says Clitby, from White Lake, so I hope I pronounced that correctly. Mr. Bishop, it's nice to see you.
Good to see you, Ed. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. McBroom, and fellow senators. I appreciate the opportunity to address you today. I'd like to do so by swearing myself in. I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me God. Unfortunately, I was here on November the 19th at the joint session between the House and the Senate. And the three clerks that I saw give their personal opinions were not sworn in. And in my opinion, they did not give testimony. One of those clerks is my very own clerk, Cheryl Guy. I live in Antrim County. Bill Bailey's a personal friend of mine, and I'm very familiar with what's going on in Judge Elsenheimer's courtroom on Thursday. We have a problem. As I do my radio show every day, I talk and interact with people all over the state of Michigan through my website and the TuneIn app. The problem we have is that we, the people, don't have faith in what happened in our state. You've heard all the testimony here today. I totally concur. As a poll challenger for the first time in my life of 62 years. I drove down to the roof of TCF Center. I call it Cobo Hall. Patrick Kobach approached me and said, you need to come see this. I own a radio station. I'm very familiar with the internet, Ethernet cables, routers, and modems. Every single tabulator in that long table was connected to a computer. That computer was connected to the internet via Ethernet cables. We tracked it down. Long extensions of Ethernet cables was piled up to hide what we got down on our knees and found, which was a high-speed commercial router. We saw it with our own eyes. Many people can verify this. Patrick Kobach went to Christopher Thomas and Mr. Nathan and Mr. Baxter, election officials in Detroit. We asked them, as I was witnessing the conversation, are those connected to the internet? No. You have to trust us. I'm willing to take a lie detector test. I know Mr. Kobeck will, and many others that you've heard from today. My question to you, will Chris Thomas, Mr. Nathan, and Mr. Baxter do the same? We want a full forensic audit in Wayne, Macomb, Oakland, Kent County, and Antrim County before you guys can certify this election, because it has not been truly certified based on the fraudulent activities that took place in this state. And before you vote, I wish somebody would reach out to leadership and tell them to please stop saying we haven't seen any evidence to overturn the election yet. We have. Please do not send any electors to the Electoral College on December 14th until those full forensic accountings are done in Wayne, Macomb, Oakland, Kent, and Antrim counties. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bishop.
I will take your questions under oath.
Thank you. And members of the audience, I just beg you again, please, to try to restrain yourself, because I still have a very big pile of cards, and I know a lot of you are waiting. So any questions from members? No. Thank you so much
I
for being
drove all
here.
the way down here. I'd love to answer a question.
Senator McDonald.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Randy, at the end of the day, who are we ultimately going to find responsible? I don't want to make this political, Democrat, Republican. Who are we going to find responsible for this, in your mind, your opinion?
One thing I think that would solve the problem, and I would really love to heal not only the nation, but especially the state, I would love to see candidate, former Vice President Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Jocelyn Benson, to agree to our request. We won't accept Biden and Harris as our president and vice president until we're given proof that nothing was illegally done in this election. If you go through a forensic accounting of Wayne, Macomb, Oakland, Kent, and my Antrim County, show us the facts. We want to see the ballots. We want to see the poll books. We want to see the cables, the tabulators. We want to see it all. And if you prove to us, Mr. Biden, with all due respect, we'll accept you as our president. We will accept you as our senators and our state representatives to heal this state and to heal this country. I have not lived for 62 years with kids, grandkids, and great-grandkids to see this election stolen, which is what we believe. Prove us wrong. All you have to do is that auditing of the books, the ballots, in full disclosure with a Democrat, a Republican, an independent, Jocelyn Benson, Governor Whitmer, Mr. Biden in the room. If you do that, the truth will be shown and our land will be healed. But until you do it, we're not going to buy it. The Democrats say, hey, shut up. It's been certified. No, it hasn't. I don't believe Wayne County has truly been certified. With what Monica Palmer and William Hartman went through, they never certified Oakland County. How could the Board of Canvassers certify the state when you don't have all 83 counties certified? They said it was. No, it wasn't. There's laws on the books. I understand the election law. You're going to be held accountable that if you don't send electors or you send the Republican electors, you broke the law. No, I say you responded to a higher law. You responded and appealed to God, and you did the right thing in your own morals and your values and the principles for the people of this state and for our country. And if you don't, God help us.
Any other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yep. Next, I have Lenore Couric, followed by David Clitby, and then Linda Sawyer. Is Lenore Couric here? Is Lenore here? If she did submit written testimony, and we'll take that. Is David here? After David would be Linda Sawyer, followed by Holly Spaulding.
Thank you, Senator. It's David Clixby, by the way.
It is an X.
Yes,
Okay.
it's an X.
That was an option I considered. Please welcome, and you have 3 minutes.
Thanks. My name is Dave Clixby. I'm from Oakland County. I was a poll challenger both in this last election as well as the August primaries. I'm just here today to tell you what I saw and request that you do something about what I view as a somewhat fraudulent election. I was there on Tuesday from 6:30 in the morning till when they stopped the count, and that's the thing that nobody's talked about today. Is things are going very smoothly, and suddenly at 8 o'clock-ish, the gentleman on the kiosk said, "Okay, that's it. You can go home. Stop counting." And they had a stack of ballots, a couple hundred. Things were very slow in the afternoon. Things come in, you have some work, and then you don't have any work for hours. The poll workers did their job. They had to be sitting at their table more than the poll challengers, and then we could have more mobility than they could. But when everything stopped, it was like a sudden shock wave through the room, and people didn't, because they were scheduled from 6:30 in the morning till 10 at night. So suddenly they get to go home early, and that's pretty much what I thought. It's like, it's over. It's not fun doing what we were doing in Cobo Hall for 12 hours a day. But the point, the benchmark of the numbers, when Mr. Baxter, I'm not sure if it was Baxter or the head honcho on the kiosk said the total numbers of the ballots that we counted today up till now was 107,000 ballots. Everybody clapped. It was an acknowledgement of a job well done. 1 minute. So the point is, and then pretty much everybody left. My questioning is, what happened on the midnight shift? Because I came back in at 10:30 in the morning. I was called up and they wanted more help. And at 10:30 in the morning, when I walked into that room, it was like quiet. The dust had settled. It was just kind of a quiet, silent room that was just maybe waking up, but it was still pretty quiet and sleepy in there. So how is it that if they brought in 40,000 votes at 4 o'clock, that they would get all of them done by 10:30? It just doesn't, something about that doesn't make sense to me, and I don't trust that this election was fair and on the up and up. And what are you guys going to do about it? You know, I know you can hear it all, but if we're not going to take action on a definite fraud to the system, if you're just going to kick it down the road and worry about it tomorrow, and maybe this is something that we can correct the next time around, you've missed an opportunity to stop what's going on. I believe.
Thank you, sir.
I believe there was fraud in this election.
Thank you. Mr. Clixby, any questions from members? Senator Santana.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you for your testimony. I just got one question. Did you trust the election back in 2016 when Trump won and Hillary Clinton lost Detroit by 10,000 votes?
Did I what the election?
Did you trust the outcome of the election in 2016 when Hillary Clinton lost Detroit by 10,000 votes?
Not particularly, because if I remember right, Detroit was, it took them weeks to verify the election, and I just know that it didn't look, Detroit did not look good in the public eye for just being organized, and there was just a lot of funny business going on then too. So no, I didn't particularly trust it then.
Okay, thank you, Senator. Thank you, Mr. Clixby. Next, we have Linda Sawyer, followed by Holly Spalding,